Hi everyone, welcome all to this final module of our SRWE course. This course gave you an in-depth knowledge and skills you need to set up switches, routers and other wireless devices on your ever-growing network. It should made you feel good and confident enough as a good network administrator. But everyone wants to be more. Good is not just good enough these days. To become a great network administrator, you should be able to effectively troubleshoot. Best way to have mastery at troubleshooting is not just keep on studying, but to do loads of practice, to do it hands-on practice regularly. In this module, let's discuss troubleshooting static and default routes, reasons for network failure, and common troubleshooting commands. So let's get going. So these are the two topics that we are going to discuss as part of this module. The first one deals with explaining how a router processes packets when a static route is configured. The second topic we are going to discuss about troubleshooting common static and default route configuration issues. We will take some examples and then we'll start discussing from one particular issue. So first things first, the first one is the packet processing with static routes. Now consider this topology. Let us assume that PC1 is going to send a packet which is addressed to PC3. So this packet will obviously be received by the default gateway, which is nothing but the Z0 by 0's interface of routers R1. Okay, that is the first step here. So in the second step, R1 does not have a specific route to the destination network. So therefore, R1 uses the default static route. If you remember correctly, default static route is given as the quad 0 route. That means if a router does not have an entry in its routing table, what it does is it will automatically forward it to the next hop address specified by the default static route. You can see here. So R1 encapsulates the packet in a new frame. The default static route actually specifies it to send to the S0 by 1 by 0's interface of R2 router. So in step 3, what R1 does is it will actually re-encapsulate this particular packet in a new data link frame. Because it is just a point-to-point link here, the R1 adds an all ones address for the layer 2's destination address, because here a packet can only be received by R2. In fourth step, the frame is forwarded out of the serial S0 by 1 by 0's interface of R1, and this arrives at the once again S0 by 1 by 0's interface of R2. Once the packet is received by R2, what it does is it will decapsulate the frame, looks for a route to the destination. Assume that in R2's table, it has a static route to this particular LAN because the packet is destined to 192.168.2.0's network. It knows that it has a static route out of the serial S0 by 1 by 1 interface. So in sixth step, what it will do is it will encapsulate the packet in a new frame. And once again, this is a point-to-point link. It will have all ones in the MAC address destination or destination MAC address. And this particular packet will be sent out from the S0 by 1 by 1 interface. And this packet is being received by R3 on the same S0 by 1 by 1 interface. In the eighth step, once R3 receives this packet, it will decapsulate it and it will look for a route to the destination. Because you can see that R3 has a directly connected route here. You can see it is directly connected to this particular LAN network. So R3 has a connected route to the 192.168.2.0's network out of the Z0 by 0 by 0 interface. So R3, now it looks up to the IARP table for the corresponding layer 2 or the MAC address for PC3. Because it only knows the IP address from the packet, it will look for a MAC address. If it exists, it will simply paste that particular address into the outgoing MAC frame and then it will forward across the Z0 by 0's interface. But if it is not present, it will send an ARP request out. It will broadcast it. And PC3, once it receives this particular ARP request, it will see that the corresponding IP address belongs to PC3 and it will give an ARP reply back. That means it is saying that I am the person who corresponds to the given IP address and this is my MAC address. Once the MAC address is known, it will automatically encapsulate the packet using that particular MAC address and it sends out of the Z0 by 0's interface of R3. And finally, the frame is forwarded out of the Z0 by 0 interface. The packet arrives on the network interface card of PC3. So these are the steps that usually happen when a packet is being traversed from source to destination and you making use of the static default routes or even static routes. Let's move on to the next part. How do you troubleshoot an IPv4 static and default route configuration? So let me make myself very much clear here. When you want to do troubleshooting, it's like there is no one particular step-by-step procedure or a fixed procedure that you need to take up. You have to use your brain, you have to use your common sense. The first and foremost thing in troubleshooting is to identify the problem, where the problem lies. That itself is a very big thing. And once you know what the problem is, then you have to formulate your own steps, maybe use shortcuts of your own, maybe use your knowledge, use your experience to troubleshoot the issue. So when we talk about this troubleshooting, first of all, you should understand why the issue arises. As I told you, even in my earlier modules, that doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how experienced you are, doesn't matter how many networks you have configured, there is always a possibility that the networks will have errors or there will be issues in networks. Networks fail for a number of reasons. Maybe an interface can fail, some connector or whatever it might be. A service provider drops a connection, the links can become oversaturated, or even an administrator may enter a wrong configuration. Because we are all human beings, it is common for us to make mistakes. It is the job of the network administrator to be responsible for pinpointing and even actually solving the problem. It is up to the network administrator to get the network up and running again. So to efficiently find and solve these issues, it is advantageous to be intimately familiar with tools to help isolate the routing problems quickly. So if you are a good administrator, if you are the best one out there, the ability to solve the problem, to locate the problem, to isolate it, and then to give a possible solution for it, and how fast you can make the network up and running, it will actually decide you how good you are. So for that, you need to understand and you need to know well how to make use of the different tools that are at our disposal to get this troubleshooting easily. So these are the common troubleshooting commands that we have been using since our course 1, Introduction to Networks. Ping, where you actually verify the layer 3 connectivity to destination. The second command is traceroute, where we can actually identify the path to the destination network. Then show IP route, where you can actually display the routing table. If you want to display the routing table for an IPv6 network, then you could type in show IPv6 route. And then we can actually also use show IP interface brief, where for IPv6, you can type in show IPv6 interface brief, which displays the status of the device interfaces. And finally, there is another command called as show CDP neighbors. This is the Cisco's discovery protocol. It displays a list of directly connected Cisco devices. This is also used to validate the layer 1 and layer 2 connectivity. These are all the different commands that are there for us to help to understand what the problem is and also to troubleshoot that particular issue. So this is a simple scenario which is given over here. How you can actually finding a missing or misconfigured route is a relatively straightforward process if the right tools are used in a methodological manner. So for instance, if the user in this, once again, PC1 reports that he cannot access the resources on R3's LAN. So if somebody is trying to access PC3 from PC1, it is not going to work. So this can be configured by pinging the LAN interface of R3 using the LAN interface of R1 as a source. Now, as I told you, there is no one particularly fixed manner through which you need to go on to verify why this is not happening. You can use your knowledge, you can use your experience. Generally, these are the common steps that any network administrator will take to verify where the issue arises or where the issue is or what is the problem, what is creating this problem. So ping the remote LAN, sourcing the ping from the Z0x00 interface on R1 to the Z0x0y interface on R3. It shows no connectivity. And then you ping the next hop router. So you ping the S0x1x0 on R2. If it works, then fine. That means that R1 and R2 can still talk to one another. Then ping R3 LAN from this particular S0x1x0. It is also successful, confirming that R1 can reach the remote LAN on R3. However, packet source from the LAN on R1 cannot. So now this indicates that either R2 or R3 may have an incorrect or missing route to the LAN on R1. Maybe something is wrong with R2 and R3 because R1 packets are going to the LAN. So in that case, what you do is you have to verify the routing tables on both R2 and R3. Now, once you see the verify the routing tables, it looks like this. You have to check each and every network. Maybe the subnet mask is given, is maybe entered, different subnet mask may be entered, and you also need to check the static routes, whether the correct network is mentioned or not, whether the next hop IP address is given correct or not. Maybe usually sometimes the network address might be given wrong, because all these are human beings who enter these things, and there is a good probability that mistakes can be made. So you can see here in this particular example, you can see that R2 static route configuration is given as wrong. So you need to remove it by using the no command. So no IP route, then you can remove that command, and you have to enter the new particular one. Then the route which is correct, you should now enter it. And once you do it, you have to verify it once again whether the new route has been updated in your routing table or not, whether it is taking the, then once you do that, you can actually ping the remote LAN again. Now you would be able to see that the ping works. This is just a common simple example, but imagine if you have a very large network, and if you have IPv4 and IPv6 networks as well, then how do you troubleshoot it? Once again, please follow the steps. If I were you, I would verify first the interfaces, and then I would go into the routing tables entries. I'll check out what the routing table entries are. I'll also verify whether each and every connected networks are the same or not, connected routes are the same or not. And also I will check the static interfaces, default static routes that I entered, whether I gave the correct ones or not. Sometimes floating static routes will be misconfigured. So there are many issues to be to take into consideration to verify, in order to come to a conclusion where the issue arises. There is a packet tracer activity in this particular module, one which will help you to sort it out. I'll post a video for that as well. So with that, we have come to the close of our SRW course. Hopefully you have liked all my videos earlier. So thank you very much all for watching this. And as I told you, troubleshooting is not learned by listening to something or just by reading something. You have to do it in practice. So download the packet tracer activity or check the video on the packet tracer activity to see how it can be done. So thank you very much. Take care. All the best.